What's up? My name is Gabe Miller, and welcome to my second channel. This is going to be a little more unedited, a little more unscripted, but hopefully still valuable and interesting. Today, I want to have a bit of a ramble about headphones, and I should put the disclaimer out there right now. I'm a music producer, but not necessarily a professional one, although I've been able to build a bit of an audience on my main channel for music production topics. I'm not an audiophile, though, so some of the things I say might seem like maybe a little uneducated on the topic. I've done a bunch of research on this, but I'm not an audiophile. I just want something to sound good enough and then to move on. But I've gone down a bit of a headphone rabbit hole lately, so I wanted to talk about it. So I've got a few different things I want to go through. These are all fairly budget, like in the $100-ish range, and they're for a few different purposes, but a lot of them are kind of under the umbrella of the stuff that I do a lot of: making music, listening to music, and playing games. Each one of these categories encompasses a ton of different pairs of headphones just in the budget range, and I'm gonna only barely scratch the surface, but this has just been a topic that's been on my mind recently, so I wanted to talk about it, and I've made some finds that I do like. So let's start off with the workhorses of my studio. These are the Audio-Technica AT-M40s. They are not perfectly flat, and I'll get back to that in a second, but they are pretty reliable reference headphones, especially for the price. I used to have a pair of M50s, and I actually think I like these better. The high end is a little bit less piercing in my experience. The bass is a little bit deeper, and I find that I tend to get more accurate mixes with this than I did with the M50s. That's my own personal experience, though. Your mileage may vary. This has got the detachable cable, which is nice to have, so if the cable ever goes out on me, I can always replace it. And it's got the little end here with the little screwy bit to convert it here. So that'll plug into my audio interface. And like I mentioned, these are decent reference headphones. There's a good reason that you'll see Audio-Technicas everywhere in bedroom music production studios and also professional music studios for that matter. These are closed back, so they fully cover your ear and envelop it. And the result that has is the extra bass that these can reproduce. They have really deep subs, which makes them great for electronic music production because you can hear that stuff accurately. Cheaper headphones that are notorious for having a lot of bass will often just take the actual bass and the sub bass and just kind of squeeze it together, cram it all together so you can't really tell which is which, and it's just this kind of soup. That's not all that pleasing sounding to me personally, because I've gotten used to hearing them more separately. Separate sub bass from your regular bass. For these, they do that. They do that really well, so you can really hear what's going on in your low end. And these are also just fun to listen to because the bass and the sub bass is enveloping. The sub bass is like this wave gently crashing over you, but it's heavy and massive. So if you're mixing bass music, a lot of heavier genres of electronic music, these are already a good bet because you can hear all that stuff very clearly. They reproduce it well, but they don't exaggerate it to the point that it's ridiculous, like, say, the Skull Candy Crushers, which I've not had a chance to try myself, but they literally have like a haptic motor to vibrate your head. Bit much for me. I have a drums background, and so I do like quite a bit of bass, but I like it to have a pretty substantial punch to it. And lower mids, I tend to like to not have them be too emphasized. So I tried a pair of Mezzi headphones and didn't like those very much because of that little lower mids bump. It just kind of made everything I was listening to sound worse, in my opinion, for my own taste. The other thing that me having an emphasis on kind of liking drums has is I love high end. I love very clear, crispy, punchy high end. These definitely have that. It took me some time to get used to. I used to think that you had to burn in headphones. As it turns out, that's a total myth. Headphone burn-in just isn't really a thing, especially over the course of just a few days. So it's more just your ears getting used to a new pair of headphones. So I was a little bit shocked by the amount of high end, both with the M50s and with these. It felt harsh and piercing, but then I got used to it. And now I use these very intentionally for their high end as well to make sure that I'm not cranking my high end too much. I don't have anything crazy going on there. The one thing they lack a little bit on is the mids because they're not quite as flat as they could be. So for that, I used SonarWorks Sound ID reference to completely flatten out the frequency response of these. Now, I find I tend to do worse when it comes to judging the high-end content, and so I'll flip back and forth between these being flattened out by SonarWorks and these being just the way that they are. And that's given me pretty good results. Referencing against other songs while mixing, that's given me pretty good results that have translated reasonably well. So these are my studio workhorse. They're fairly comfortable, at least for my head personally, and they also are fun to listen to. So if I could only have one pair of headphones, especially on a budget, it's going to be these. I know that they can be seen as overrated, but these just really genuinely do sound good to me. However, I do have some fun headphones. These are the Grado SR80X, and I do not use these for referencing because they've got this massive high-end bump and don't reproduce nearly as much sub bass, but these are crispy. I mentioned loving detailed high-end and punchy low-end. This is what these do really well. Sometimes the upper mids are a bit much, especially for stuff with really harsh transients. It can make it sound kind of wrong to me, I guess, like it hits a little too hard in a place that's uncomfortable to listen to. But for the most part, stuff with a lot of punch to it sounds absolutely amazing in these. Stuff like Deadmau5, Periphery, there's a very specific mixing style that these make shine amazingly. And I often will just use these to listen to music. They're super detailed. They've got a decently wide sound profile. These are open back, so they will leak all over the place and let all the sound in. But for just listening, I really do enjoy these. These are fun for me. The one thing I don't like is I don't like the fuzzy ear cup things. It's like this, it's a little bit rough. It's too sandpapery for me. And it does make me kind of remember that they're on my head. Although they do fit me quite well. They do feel pretty light. So I might see if I can replace these at some point. But overall, these are just fun. These are my fun headphones. And I know most people would go for like a really bassy pair of headphones for their fun headphones. But I actually find that the bass on this has this really nice punch to it. Once again, the sub bass is very nicely separated from the low end and the lower mids. So bass music actually sounds really good in these. AU5 sounds amazing in these. Anyway, the other pair of headphones is not a pair of reference headphones at all. I would not use these for reference headphones in the slightest. They only sound okay for music at best. But for gaming, they're fine. They're adequate. I should do a little mic test in a second here, but I've never had any complaints from friends like talking over Discord on these, and I've sat in meetings for work with these as well.
You're listening to the glorious sound of the Logitech headphones. I'm blanking on the name of them right now.
And for gaming content, they do sound decently wide. You can place stuff in space pretty well, and they've got these really deep ear cups, and so they'll like squish your hair down a little bit and make you look a little bit ridiculous afterwards. But the benefit that has is that I can wear these for a long period of time. My ears might get a little bit warm, but my ears won't like press against the sides or feel uncomfortable anyway. They've got enough padding to make these comfortable to wear for a long period of time. They thought ahead. That was $50 well spent in my case, because I have kind of picked up gaming as a hobby, especially to be social over the course of the pandemic. And it's kind of here to stay, I think, at least for a while. Eventually, I'd love to get these with a mic attached to them, because you can get little attachment mics that you can clip onto any pair of headphones, and then you have to use a separate adapter for that, and that's the part that it's like, that adds a little bit of friction, and I just kind of can't be bothered, and so I'll probably just stick with my dedicated gaming headset for now, but that's something I'm considering. The other headphones that have been a staple are these. A cheap little pair of Panasonic earbuds. So a couple interesting things about these. First of all, Arting's review of these actually says, yeah, they're actually fairly balanced, which was a bit of validation for me, because I've mixed music through these, and like on my main channel when I'm making music, I'll often wear these while just cooking up a beat from scratch or something like that, because they're very unobtrusive, and I can just roll, because they're cheap, I can just roll them up, put them in my pocket, and not worry about them, and replace them if they break. And I also wear them upside down. I don't think you're actually supposed to do that, but they fit better in my ear that way and sound better to me that way. And I can wear these for hours and hours on end. Sometimes if I'm at work and I'm just trying to block out noise, I'll just leave them in with no music playing. And these are a good workhorse for me. They're objectively not very good, but they have enough low bass to them that they're able to reproduce decent mids and okay high end. The high end is the worst part of these, in my opinion, just because there's not enough of it. I wish it was more detailed, and I wish it was more, because often if I just mix on these without referencing anything else, I can tend to go a bit overboard on high end. And sometimes I've made some mixing choices that I would check later with these and go, whew, that's way too much. So that's my headphone experience. I've tried some others. I've had a chance to try some Sennheiser, some nice Sennheiser ones in the past, and I would like to revisit those at some point. And like I mentioned, I tried some Mezzies, and I just didn't do it for me personally. I didn't like the fit. My ear pressed against the side of one of the caps because they stick out a little bit, and I didn't like the sound. The top end was okay. It was fairly smooth, which was kind of cool, but it was muted more than I would like, and I didn't like the lower mids bump. Personal preference. Those took correction from SonarWorks pretty well, though, to make them more flat. The Grados I would never put through correction because, once again, those are fun headphones, and the correction just makes them sound like they're trying really hard to pretend to be something they're not, and that's just not working for me. So, that's my ramble about headphones. Hopefully you found this interesting. Thank you so much for watching.